Crystal's going to intro and just kind of welcome everybody.
So we just want to thank you for taking the time tonight to be with us. We know that you have busy lives and you could be a lot of other places, and you chose to be here. And that shows that you're dedicated and you want to make some changes in your health. And so our goal tonight is really to bring you some skills and tools that are going to help you on your journey and to help you understand more of what's going on in your brain during this time. So tonight, we're going to talk to you a little bit about habit loops and willpower and how those things kind of play together. So we really have four main parts that we focus on with the Optavia program. And I'm just going to touch on each one really quick, just because sometimes we can forget that we have four components and it's really easy to focus on the nutrition because that's the easiest part. So I just wanted, this is your reminder to make sure you're using all four. Okay. So the first one is everyone gets a coach. Okay. And we are just here to be a sounding board, cheerleaders, help you with that accountability. Then we have our amazing Habits of Health transformational system. And this is actually what we're going to be teaching you out of tonight. Okay. So all the skills and the tools we're teaching you, they're all in that system. Okay. And this teaches you everything from eating healthy, getting better sleep, having better relationships, clear to habit building, which we're going to talk about tonight, and all kinds of things. So that's kind of the gold of our system. And then we have our amazing Optavia community, which you're kind of seeing tonight. All these people that are on this journey with you that are changing their lives. And we plug you into that so you don't feel alone. No matter what kind of support system you have at home, you have your Optavia family right here to cheer you on, okay? And then the last part is just our simple nutrition plans. And we've got all kinds of different nutrition plans for people to pick from, but they're really just simple, easy to follow nutrition plans. So no matter how busy you are, you can plug it into your life and you can be successful, okay?
Awesome. Thanks, Crystal. Yeah, so leading us into talking about habits tonight, my first big question for you guys is, why are habits so important? And it's because willpower, you guys, is unreliable. Like seriously, like raise your hand if you have relied on willpower in the past to reach a goal. Yeah, probably like most of us, and it doesn't work very well because willpower is like a brain muscle. You can strengthen your willpower muscle over time with practice and self-discipline, but we do all have our limits with it. It takes energy to be able to use willpower, and it takes a lot of it. And so I'm going to kind of tell you like a scenario, and I want you to put a 1 in the chat if you can relate. So you wake up in the morning, like you're so excited and you're motivated to work on your goals. You like tell yourself that maybe you're going to stay on plan, or maybe you're going to go for a jog after work, or you're not going to eat any sugar that day, right? Like whatever that goal is, and you're like so ready for it. And then you go start your day and you use willpower, like the minute you get in the car and someone cuts you off, right? Like to not flip that person off, like that takes some willpower. Or to hold your tongue when your boss yells at you, or to avoid the donuts in the break room, or to avoid eating like your kids' crust, right, on their sandwiches, whatever. Like we just go all day long using this willpower muscle, and then we get to the end of the night, and like that excitement, that resolve, that motivation to go for that jog, or to not eat sugar, or stay on plan, or whatever, like that's gone. And it's just like, I don't even care anymore. I don't know who that person was this morning, but that's like not what I want anymore. And then we are like, I'll do it tomorrow, right? Anyone's in the chat? Yeah, so I think there's a lot of us that are like that. And so what you experienced in that type of scenario is willpower fatigue. And you can only white knuckle your way through something for a short amount of time. It's not sustainable. And the great thing about habits is that they take very little to no conscious effort or energy. And then once something is established as a healthy habit, it's so easy to have it happen. It just becomes autopilot. There's no white knuckling or willpower there, right? And then lastly, when life throws us a curveball, in which it does all the time, our brain's going to default back to what's easy. And easy is habits. And so that's why we have to have ones in place that are going to serve us instead of hinder us or injure us. And then, so like what really is a habit loop, right? And maybe some of you have seen this before, maybe this is new to you, that's okay. If you're a client, this is actually element 1 of the habit loop factors. So it starts with the cue. Hold Hopefully you can hear me. My internet says unstable. Okay, so the cue is what triggers your brain to start doing something. It's just that little bit of information that's predicting a reward coming, and then that sparks a craving. And the craving is just the motivational force behind every habit. If we don't have that, we don't have a reason to act. But the interesting thing is we don't actually crave the habit itself. We crave this change in state that it delivers. And then it leads to the routine. And the routine is just what we do. It's the thought, the action, or behavior that happens. And then the reward is the prize for completing that routine. So I want to go over an example of this from my personal life. So before Optavia, I would sometimes stress eat, and I wasn't stress eating vegetables, right? And so at the time I had 2 daughters, I had a baby and a toddler. And I had this routine in place every night. I would get the kids to bed, and I waited all day for this moment. And then I'd walk into my kitchen and I'd pull down from this up high shelf, like this cardboard box, literally labeled junk box on it. And I'd set it on the counter and I would eat it there for sometimes like up to an hour. I would just be eating this sugar until I was sick usually. And I remember the first time someone asked me like, well, why do you do that every night? And I thought that was like a ridiculous question. I was like, because it tastes good. Why else would I do this every night? And it took me some learning and definitely some mindset shifts with this program before I realized that, you know, that was like a lot more than that. Because honestly, if it was just about tasting good, by the end of my binging cycle, I wasn't even tasting it anyway. So like it had to be more than that. And so what it really was just a habit loop that kept me with this afternoon crash every single day. I was 30 pounds overweight and I just felt like a slave to sugar. So here is, we're just going to talk about habits are automatic, right? And so that's why it can be tricky sometimes to change them up, because sometimes we're unaware that that's what our brain's doing. And so I want you to think about this. Like if we had to think about every tiny step in every process of our everyday, like we would never be able to function or get anything done, right? So when was the last time you tied your shoe and you thought about like every single little like part of it, like making the bunny ear and like going around, right? Like we don't have to think about that kind of stuff because our brain automates things so that we can be more productive and use less brain energy. Or do you know which leg you pick up to put your sock on first? Or have you ever been in your car and all of a sudden like you're at the place you were going and you don't even remember your drive? Like that's what habits do, right? That's what a habit loop is. So habits aren't bad. They're actually a great thing when they serve what we want to create most, right? And the difficult thing oftentimes is we end up developing some habits that keep us from reaching what we want most. And so let's just take my personal example and plug it into this habit loop. So in my post-bedtime routine for my kids, my cue was mostly an emotional one. Like I was tired and I was stressed. And those emotions were my cue. And so I was craving sugar, yes, but deeper than that, I craved a distraction from those unpleasant emotions. And so the routine that I would do is I would walk to the kitchen, grab the junk box, eat the sugar until I felt sick. And the reward I got from this was that I didn't have to think about how tired or how stressed I was if I was having a pleasant time eating chocolate and candy for a while, right? I was buffering. So let's do an even more simple example. You're driving in your car, there's a stoplight coming down the road, the light turns red. What happens? Cue, red light, routine. You stop, you hit the brakes and you stop. So your reward in that example is that you don't get in an accident, you stay safe, you don't get pulled over, right? So you avoid pain and discomfort and danger. And so now that you kind of understand the ingredients that make up a habit loop and how that works, Crystal's just in a minute going to be going over, how to create good habits and then stop the ones that keep us from reaching our goals. But just one thing before we jump to that, we felt it was important to address this. Having good habit loops in place is essential to success, right? With any goal in life, whether it be with your health or your business or your family, whatever. But another important aspect and really a pre-qualifier for creating habit change is knowing your why. So one of my favorite quotes is, if your why isn't big enough, your excuses will be. So when you're kind of formulating your why statement, some good questions to ask yourself is, number one, is it compelling? Is your why or your reason to get healthier or to stop yelling at your kids or to heal your marriage, Is that why big enough and powerful enough to make you excited? We're humans, right? And if the payoff doesn't feel big enough, we're not going to do it, or at least we're not going to stick with it. And so the second question is it positive? And where focus goes, the energy flows, right? What we focus on is what grows. And so if you're stuck on thinking about how you're so sick and tired of feeling fat and tired, you're probably just going to get more fat and tired, because like that's just what we're focused on. And so we want to focus on what we do want, not on what we don't want. So kind of the opposite of that example would be, you want to wake up feeling rested and ready for the day. You want to think about how you want to race up the stairs full of breath, slip on that red shirt from your closet and just have it fit comfortably, right? And then one last question is it still accurate? And this one's important because we change and our whys change with us. And so maybe if you've been on your health journey for a while, maybe what got you motivated and excited in the beginning, it's just not compelling enough anymore to keep fueling that why. And so maybe it's time to reassess and just see what different things that you want now. So let's throw it over to Crystal to tell us a little bit more about habits.
Yeah, thanks, Kaeley. So I'm going to just talk to you about ways to make your habits actually stick. Okay. And I want you to think about this like a science experiment, because sometimes you'll try a habit loop and it seems like it's working for a little while, and then maybe the reward's not strong enough or the routine is too hard. And so literally think about this like a science experiment. I'm going to try this new habit loop. If it's not working, I'm going to check with my coach. Maybe I need to adjust some things, and keep practicing it until you find one that's easy enough for it to stick. So here's some keys to make that process really easy. So you want to make the cue obvious. Okay. So for example, if you're trying to learn to work out more frequently, you want to set your workout clothes somewhere where you can see them to remind yourself, oh yeah, I'm making it a priority to work out today. One thing I love too is do it when your willpower is strong. So if you're going to work out, do it first thing in the morning when you're pumped up and excited, not when you get home from work and you have no energy left. Okay. So make the cue obvious. The next one is make the craving more attractive. Okay. So if that donut looks really good, right? Because let's face it, donuts look really good. Like our brain knows what they taste like. It's like that thing is full of sugar and fat. It's going to give you energy right now. Do it, eat it. So you want to make your why, right? Your reason for not eating that donut more attractive. So you want to be able to remind yourself, and that's why your why is so important, is yes, but that donut isn't going to make me feel better. Like having your why in place is really what's going to help you have that craving be really attractive. So one of the things that I like to use, I just talked to you about exercise, is when you work out, it literally releases endorphins for your brain. So it feels good. Like you literally feel good. So you might be telling yourself like, I don't really want to work out today, but after you've worked out a few times and you feel really good, your brain's like, yeah, but last time we did it, it felt really good. So it becomes more attractive. Make sure your routine is super easy. Don't say, I'm going to run a mile today when you haven't even walked a mile in your life, right? Make it super easy and doable even on your worst day. And then make the reward satisfying. So make sure your reward is strong enough. Again, if that habit loop isn't sticking, check your reward. See how you can make that reward stronger so that you want to do it again and again. And then on the flip side, we've got things that you want to do to break a habit. Okay. And it's basically just the opposite of what we just talked about. So make your cue invisible. This is one thing I talk with my clients a lot about, is set yourself up for success in your weakest moments. So don't have the trigger foods in the closet. One thing I would catch myself doing all the time is I'd go to the grocery store and I'd be like, oh, but the kids love this, right? This snack is for the kids. It's not for me, right? Which honestly, should your kids be eating that anyway? Let's be real, right? But if you're telling yourself that, but you also secretly deep down in your soul know that that's like your trigger food, don't even bring it in your house. Okay. Don't have those things around because your willpower is going to wane. So you don't want to have it there. And then make the craving unattainable. Again, if it's not in the house and you have to literally get in your car to drive to get it, you're way more likely to not drive in your car to get it. Or on the way there, you're going to have that inner battle where you're like, what am I doing? Right? Like you're kind of creating that pause for yourself. You want to make the routine hard. Make sure that getting that thing that you want and when your willpower is weak is going to be really difficult for you. and then make the reward unsatisfying. One of the things I used to do is when I would find myself going off plan and eating a bunch of sugar, because that was mine too, totally a sugar addict over here, is I would pay attention to the way that my body felt after I ate it. And I would literally just sit there and like ruminate on that feeling and be like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. This does not feel good. Those 3 donuts tasted really good in the moment, but now my stomach is killing me. And I would just remind myself of that. Okay. So remember, make the reward unsatisfying. And I wanted to share with you a couple really cool things. First of all, on average, it takes about 66 days of repetition doing something over and over to create a new habit. Okay. However, creating those neural pathways takes time and it takes patience. It doesn't mean that it's going to be, I did this 66 days, I'm good to go. Okay. It's going to take time and repetition. So I wanted to share a story with you about habit loop that I created for myself. And that has to do with garbage. Okay. So when my little boy was about 18 months old, he had this awesome habit of going to my garbage can and pulling my garbage out and throwing it all over my kitchen floor. It was not great. So I got tired of it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to put the garbage in the pantry and I'm going to shut the door. That way he can't go in there and pull all the garbage out. Right. And what I found happening over time was, well, first of all, I put that in there. That solved the little boy problem of pulling the garbage out. But guess where I would go every time I needed to throw something away? Back to the old spot where the garbage can was. And it was really annoying. Okay. And I kept thinking, you know what? This would be so much easier if I just put the garbage can back where it used to be. But would it really be easier in the short term? Right. But in the long term, no. If I stuck with that and just created this new neural pathway, I would be in such a better place. I wouldn't have to deal with cleaning up that garbage all the time. So keep that in mind when you're like, it's just so hard to say no to the donuts. Like, yeah, it's hard right now, but if you continue to do it, it's going to get easier. Okay. So what happened is I was actually coaching at this point, and so I knew what was happening in my brain. So I thought I'm going to become aware of this and just kind of pay attention to how long this takes. So it took me honestly a good solid 2 weeks before I wasn't going to the old spot where the garbage can was. But then I found that every time I got stressed or overwhelmed or whatever, I was in a hurry, I was going back to that old spot still. And it took me probably 2.5 months for me to remember where the garbage can was, even when I was stressed. So that kind of leads me to my next point. And that is, I want you to think about ruts in a dirt road. Okay. Sorry, my kids, 2 seconds.
I'm loving these stories, Crystal.
Sorry, they might cry for just a minute. They're not neglected. They have a babysitter, FYI. Okay, so I want you to think about ruts in a dirt road for a minute. I don't know if you've ever tried to drive on ruts in a dirt road, but it is really, really hard to stay out of those ruts. And right now, when you're in the habit creation period, that's what you're trying to do. You're like up here on the side, like trying to drive outside of those ruts, and it's really hard. And what happens when it rains, right? When it gets slippery, you're like slipping back down into those old habits. And that's because stress makes you stupid, right? It makes you go back to those old habit loops. But remember, being patient with yourself in this process is so important, because if you're beating yourself up and you're shaming yourself, you're not going to be able to pull yourself out of those ruts. You're going to stay where you were. So if you can just learn to pull yourself out a little bit quicker, that's the goal with this. Get on that new path, keep creating those ruts. Eventually, those ruts are going to be solid for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Crystal. And I'll just, I want to do this with you guys. So stress makes you stupid, right? Like when we are stressed and we're in high emotions, that's when we make choices that like don't serve our goals, right? That's when we fall into those habits that don't get us where we want to go. And so I just wanted to take a minute with you guys, because this is a big part of being able to, see those health goals that you have, and actually like have it become, who you are and how you can show up. So it's good to take this every single day to be able to breathe. When you've got kids screaming in the background and you're trying to do a Zoom, it's a time to breathe. So let's just all do it together, you guys. So this is box breathing. Maybe some of you are familiar, and if not, that's okay. We're going to teach you. So you start with the inhale. You're going to breathe deep. You want to feel it in your stomach and breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. And then you hold for 4 seconds. And then exhale for 4 seconds. Out through your mouth. Hold for 4 seconds. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold. Exhale. Okay, so this is something you guys can do all of the time. And like, it's something you can do like while you're in your car, right? And like things are crazy or traffic's awful, or when your kid like breaks something in the house, or when you and your husband or your wife or whatever are in an argument. Like, this is something you can do to just take that moment. And also something you can do when you get that urge to be like, oh, I've got my cue, I'm triggered. I feel like I need fill in the blank, right? Donuts, bread, crackers, cookies, whatever, or I need to yell at my kids or whatever. So that's something like stop, challenge, choose with this program that we teach. That's what you can implement right there. So we're gonna kick it off to Michonne. Forzy, are you on to share your story? This is beautiful, Michonne.
I'm here.
Awesome. Okay, go ahead, Michonne.
So I wanted to share a quick story for me creating habit loops. So the habit loop that I was thinking of is my dinner time routine, or what I'm going to make for dinner, making a healthy dinner or not. And of course, the cue is it's that busy time of night, the kids are hungry, you're tired, you're stressed, and you need to make dinner. So the old habit was just make whatever's fast and easy, carbs, mac and cheese, something that it's going to make the kids happy. And what I decided with Optavia is I wanted to make a new routine of making a healthy, lean and green dinner every night. And I'll tell you, at first it was hard. Like, it was a struggle to think of ideas or recipes or actually commit to it, because like when you get stressed, it's just easier to go back to those basics. But over time, it really, really got easier. And that's one thing that I really love about coaching is it has allowed me to be very involved with the community, be very close to Facebook groups, recipe groups, supporting each other, helping clients find recipes. And it's really helped instill that habit in me. Now it's really easy to just go and whip up a lean and green. Not that I'm perfect, but it's sure a heck of a lot easier. Because I initially jumped into coaching, honestly, for my husband. He wanted to lose some weight. We're a busy family. I have 5 kids. He's a pilot. Just life is always chaotic. So making a healthy dinner is just something that used to stress me out. But practice what you preach, right? When I decided to become a coach, I was committed to making a lean and green for my family every single night. And the reward, I just want to tell you really quickly, last weekend when I was out of town, my mother-in-law took my kids to Golden Corral, and I wasn't there. And she called me after and she said, I want to tell you what happened on the drive over to Golden Corral. Your kids were in the back of the car discussing, okay, let's make sure we go and get a healthy protein and some veggies on our plate first. Then we can go get all of the other stuff. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's a huge victory for me. The fact that because of Optavia and because of the changes that I've made, it is helping my family want to make healthier choices. So I am super grateful for this habit loop in my life.
So dang cool. That's amazing, Michonne. Thank you for sharing that. And it just goes to show, right, that like when you decide to make that decision to take care of your health and you're doing those action steps, right, you're living the habits of health, it creates this ripple effect. And it creates that in your own family with your children. And then also like if you decide to pay it forward as a coach, like it's this ripple effect that gets even bigger. It's like your family and your friends and all of that. So thank you so much for sharing that, Michonne. Love to hear from you. Okay. Sorry, shifting gears here. Hold on. Okay, not great at multitasking, you guys. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Well, so actually what we're going to do now is this, some of you are on here kind of wondering about like what it looks like to pay it forward as a coach. And so we're going to go over some of that right now. Can everybody still see my screen?
And just with that, you guys can feel free to stay on if you are, if you want to. We'd love to have you join us. If not, feel free to hop off. We're grateful that you guys took the time to be here with us tonight and that you were patient with my crazy kids in the background and everything else going on. And we hope that you took a lot of value from this. So thank you for being with us.
Yes.